there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com with this week's episode of the Rogues Alley. This week I'm going to go back to an archetype that I played when Kalitas was out, that was very popular actually when the Shadows over Innistrad was just released, which was a Seasons Past deck that tried to utilize the combo of Dark Petition and Seasons Past to rinse and repeat this card and just get a ton of card advantage. So you're going to control the board until you can get the combo and close out the game. So I thought I'd try to take that archetype and make it happen in Kalitas. We are missing a sweeper, but lo and behold, this set we do get the Yahenni's Expertise, which is a reliable sweeper, I would say, in the set, as a lot of the times it's not quite Languish, but a lot of the times when you cast Yahenni's Expertise, you can cast the converted mana cost 3 card from your hand, which ends up being like a Grasp of Darkness or even like a Deadweight to kill that one creature that is above the 4 toughness. So I'm really impressed with this card. There are some matchups that it's just bad against right now, like the Copycat Control, but with all the Mardu vehicles and all of the Constrictor decks running around, Yahenni's Expertise actually comes out on time and usually sweeps the board or comes close to sweeping the board. So basically you're going to run a ton of control with this deck. Not a lot has changed since the last version. We have these 26 lands. Going to run one of Blighted Fen because it's a land that you can actually do something with, as well as a one of Westvale Abbey. The Westvale Abbey is just something that you usually never have a way to activate it to flip into a Ormendahl. But it is a land that has some sort of value to create a creature, and then those creatures can chump block. You can actually overwhelm your opponent if it goes extremely long. We also have the Hissing Quagmires in this deck that we can animate. So let's just go down the list here. One of the biggest additions right now is Walking Ballista. Walking Ballista really helps smooth out the Delirium, as it is both an artifact and a creature, two types that aren't that often in the graveyard for the Seasons Past. Running a one of Deadweight for that reason as well. It puts the enchantment in the graveyard because Ishkanah is very important for this deck. We do need to get an Ishkanah out to control the board after we've to clog up the board after we've controlled the board. I still do like Dark Salvation in this deck because it's a 1-drop I can get back with Seasons Past. Sometimes you don't want to get back like Fatal Pushes or Deadweights because at that point in the game, they're not very good. So a Dark Salvation and Traverse are extremely good late game to get back with Seasons Past because then you can go and tutor up your Noxious Gearhulk or your Ishkanahs or just something like a Kalitas or a Tireless Tracker. And yeah, so it's just a better target late game. On the 2 slot, we're running Collective Brutality. This is good to help Delirium because you can pitch a certain card that maybe you don't want to cast or are too far away, because you got to think of your graveyard as a renewable resource with Seasons Past. A one of Transgress the Mind. I had more in here. They're all on the sideboard now. They're extremely good versus Natural Gearhulk decks, but they're very bad versus the Constrictor and the Mardu vehicles because a lot of times they just miss. So really good versus green white tokens, really good versus the Torrential Gearhulk decks, bad versus everything else. So that's about a one of. Grasp of Darkness never seems to be bad. It can break up the Copycat Control deck. Against Torrential Gearhulk decks, you can still kill like a Wandering Fumarole that's been activated. It can still, for example, target the Torrential Gearhulk and then block with a Kalitas or something, and then at least get some value. Or even you can block at that point with the Hissing Quagmire, and your Hissing Quagmire survives. So it's not really dead, I would say, in that matchup, but you usually do want to side it out. It still does hit Thing in the Ice. Every now and then you'll see a Thing in the Ice deck. And of course it kills the Feral Guardian, kills everything in Mardu vehicles, literally everything in Mardu vehicles unless they're running the 3/5 lifelinker. And it's so Heart-of-Kron, it's very good against. On to the next slot is going to be To the Slaughter, which I'm very impressed with this deck because this is the type of card that will kill the Gideon and the token from the Gideon, or kill the Saheeli combo flat out, so the Feral Guardian and the Saheeli will die to the Slaughter on Delirium. One of Liliana, there's just not more room. Liliana's kind of weird right now. It's good versus Mardu vehicles, but bad versus basically everything else in the metagame. So just a one of is probably proper. Ruinous Path is fine. It's still another thing that can kill basically everything format. It's a great Gideon killer. Succumb to Temptation is just our draw card in this particular deck. We do want some more draw besides Seasons Past, and Succumb is instant speed, so you can hold up your removal and then draw cards at the end of turn. A one of Tireless Tracker. They have to keep the removal in for this card. Tireless Tracker can get out of control. It's just another one late game if you don't want to hit any of these on your 3 slot. Tireless Tracker is usually pretty decent, and it can close out the game. So then we just have a 1 of Diabolical Tutor. I don't like it nearly as much, of course, as the Dark Petition because it doesn't add you that mana. It is 1 less, though, so you got to think of Diabolical Tutor adding 1 mana compared to the Dark Petition. But, I mean, the 2 mana difference is huge because you can't go Diabolical Tutor into like Flaying Tendrils, which is one of the things I loved with the Dark Petition. Or you could go Dark Petition and then tutor up your Languish, and then just if you had 1 more mana, cast it. But of course, this isn't nearly as good because it's 4 mana. Then you can just go get whatever it is. It's just like it's part of the combo with Seasons Past because it allows you to rinse and repeat over and over and over. So you return the Diabolical Tutor back from your hand, or from your graveyard to your hand with Seasons Past. And then Diabolical Tutor goes and gets Seasons Past again on the following turns and ready to cast it. We have 2 Kalitases. They're great at clogging up the board and exiling your opponent's creatures, putting out 2/2 zombies. It is one of the little interactions we have with Westvale Abbey because we can't get enough zombies. Same thing with Dark Salvation. We have 3 Yahenni's Expertises, 1 in the board. We have Ob Nixilis is really good in this deck, so once you've established board presence, he starts drawing cards. If you have to just use it to destroy a creature, you're going to get it back eventually as Seasons Past. 2 more Ishkanahs, they are good for clogging up the board. A 1 of Nissa, good card draw. A lot of times what I do is immediately +1, and then the next turn, Emblem, and then you get it back with Seasons Past. Just fills back up your hand quite well. A 1 of Noxious Gearhulk, just a great removal spell, a great finisher. A 1 of Nissa's Renewal, this is something that thins out your deck. We are running 26 lands, we do need to thin out, as well as it gains life, as well as it gives the mana we need to really do everything we want to do. And then the 2 of Seasons Past. So onto the sideboard, we are going to run this is a toolbox deck, so you can have a lot of like 1-ofs and 2-ofs. Transgress the Mind is very, very good versus the Torrential Gearhulk decks. The Pick the Brain is also pretty good against those decks or any other combo-based deck, especially if you can get Delirium on time. Sometimes it's tough on turn 3. Evolving Wilds into like Walking Ballista, activate Walking Ballista, and if you use something else, that's like the best case scenario for the Pick the Brain to work. Another To the Slaughter, it's really good versus those Saheeli decks. Flaying Tendrils is great versus the Mardu Vehicles decks. It allows us to exile the Toolcraft Exemplars and the Motorists, and then our opponent still can cast a card Crew, but I mean, Flaying Tendrils does a good job. Usually always get more than a 2-for-1. It exiles the Scrapheap Scroungers. They're gone forever. Scrapheap Scroungers can be a tough card for our deck to deal with, so this is a great way to deal with the Scrapheap Scroungers. A 1 of Lost Legacy to get rid of the Saheeli combo or anything else that, like, sometimes Marvel decks are still running around with Ulamog. Another Ruinous Path, this is a flex card, and 1 more Yahenni's Expertise to bring in versus those Mardu Vehicle decks. We have an Ob Nixilis to bring in versus the slow decks, and also another Tireless Tracker to bring in versus the slower decks. And then 3 different converted mana cost artifact destroyers. So we have a 2 with Natural Obsolescence, a 3 with Appetite of the Unnatural, and a 1 with Natural State. So what I like about this deck is it's just kind of got all of its bases covered. There can be some rough matchups. I found like Green-Black Constrictor to be quite awkward, even though we're running as many Fatal Pushes and Grasps, just because they have a diverse way of taking over the game with like Verdur's Gearhulks coming out late. Even that just becomes an 8/8, which can be quite tough for this deck to deal with. It also can go Nissa on turn 3, and then that's just and get their cards above the Yahenni's Expertise, and that's tough to recover from at that point. Mardu Vehicles is pretty simple. Usually we have the edge. There's just we have a lot of action versus it. And what I like about it is you never feel dead in the water with this type of deck. It's good versus the entire meta. I mean, it's not the greatest versus some Torrential Gearhulk matchups, but you still have game versus them. So we'll go ahead and queue this up and see how well we do. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.